Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to say, first of all, how we Latin Americans got involved with the Middle East. We've been around for about 13 years. And it was simply because we had been studying what we call, in Latin America and much of the Third World, the informal economy, and had, as a matter of fact, had an important role in Peru and El Salvador and a few other Latin American countries in terms of when there was great violence, bringing these people into the formal economy and producing, in the case of my country, what is today Latin America's highest growth economy. And it was because the little people came in and made the difference. Now, when we were called in, we were asked, the first thing by all the Arab governments we worked with is, give us how big the informal economy is. So I'd like to define how, first of all, what I mean by big. Informal economy for us is all those who are entrepreneurs and who do not have the tools to do what entrepreneurs do, which is combine. God gave us natural resources and He put them all in the wrong places. And the question is, entrepreneurs come and they combine them and make things work and make them useful. Not one thing in this room comes from one place. Everything is a combination. And that's what entrepreneurs do. But entrepreneurs can't bring things together if they don't have nails or things that fix things together. What do they need to fix together? Not just the market. What they need is, on the one hand, a title to whatever it is that you've got, because you've got to transfer it, and it's got to be a fungible title. You need limited liability. Otherwise, every enterprise you get into, you are risking all the things you've got. You've got to have property so that you can give it in shares. Otherwise, how are you going to raise capital? How are you going to guarantee credit if you do not have the possibility to collateralize your goods? What do you do if you don't have a perpetual succession? How are you going to pass whatever business you own to somebody else? What happens if you have as only hierarchy your family and not a business? Now, the question then is, how many people, how many enterprises, for example, in Egypt, with a team of 120 Arabs, were we able to determine that actually don't have these things and are into enterprise? And the reply is 84% of all enterprises. In every Arab country we've gone to, 84% of all enterprises, or about 85, do not have those tools. Doesn't matter what they're called, they don't have them. When it comes to finding out how much of real estate is actually under the law, that you can say, Mahmoud lives here, and a certificate comes in and joins that, it's only 8%. 92% are outside the system. When that happens, then everything that I think Representative Ross Ledington was saying, and it's very interesting, all the figures then on unemployment come into doubt. Because what happens there, because your point is very interesting, is that even Bouazizi, who burned up, he was the first to self-immolate, was a member of the Unemployed's Club. And they were all entrepreneurs, and none of them was unemployed. Those statistics are sham. They're not correct, because the statistics don't have place for what we call the informal economy. Now, what was interesting about the self-immolator, Bouazizi, was the following thing, that when he self-immolated, he said, the reason I self-immolate is for being expropriated. When we asked, because we sent a team there that stayed 20 months, did he understand property rights? He said, no, I do not understand property rights, I understand expropriation. So the other problem we've got is not only that unemployment isn't a coined word, property rights is not, but they were expropriated. In the process, we found out that there wasn't one self-immolator, that in a space of 60 days, literally 64 people have self-immolated, and they all said it was about expropriation. And they all said, and they all self-immolated the day they were expropriated. Now, if you add those 64 immolators, self-immolators who are capable of dying for that, to the fact that it's 380 million Arabs who live outside the world of property rights or the rule of law as we understand a functioning market economy, that kind of explains why every time you have Arab nations trying to do something together, they are not able to come together. But on this, they did come together, and it had to do with property rights. Now, here's the big problem. Did they take away his things? No, because property rights is more than about things. When Bouazizi's property was taken away, his wares, his goods, it wasn't under the law. It meant simply that everything he had was under the decision of one or two persons in a political system. Those one or two persons, when they withdrew his right to sell there, they withdrew his right to credit. He could no longer use his house for a guarantee to buy anything. He could not form a company. He was ruined. The idea of the rule of law is that these things can't happen anymore. That's what they're missing, and it's their, and it happens to be their agenda. One last comment regarding that. The role that America can play is absolutely enormous, because from our point of view, America isn't just something that starts in Canada and ends in Mexico. It's an idea. You were born around the idea of freedom and property. And if the only country in the world that is born around an idea, it's more an idea than a country, actually doesn't recognize what we consider the hundreds of millions who are entrepreneurs outside the law, the same way your people, when your nation was formed, these people are not being given the message that they need to be encouraged to do that instead of doing something else.
Thank you, Mr. De Soto.